Over the last few years, I've been doing a lot of one on one consultations and I've noticed a trend. There's one thing that holds back a lot of people from ever building wealth. And in this video, I want to explain to you what exactly that is. Let's get started. The number one thing that holds people back from building wealth is that they are risk averse. They don't want to lose their money. They're more worried about losing their money than they are about spending their time to earn more money. And they don't understand that no matter what happens, if they hold on to dollars, they are going to continue to lose value forever. Whenever I used to mention index funds to people, they would always say that index funds go down and stocks are risky, stocks are gambling, it's not worth it, they don't want to lose their money. All of that was a response to me telling them that the stock market is volatile, but it's worth it because over the long term, the stock market always only goes up. The problem is that most people only want to do things that are guaranteed. They want to hold on to dollars because they know that, let's say, 10 years from now, they're going to have the same amount of money in their bank account as what they put in it today. And if they don't take that money out, it'll be waiting there for them whenever they need it. Most people don't quite understand how the financial system works, though. Most people don't seem to understand that even though the amount of money in the bank account seems to stay about the same or is increasing slightly because of whatever interest amounts they're getting, they are losing money. That money is guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. So let's say, for example, if you put $100,000 in your bank account today, in a few decades, that $100,000 will probably buy $10,000 worth of goods from today. So, what that means is that their purchasing power is decreasing, but most people don't even realize it. They don't even realize that they're losing money. They don't realize that their government is redistributing their wealth to themselves. So, they're taking these people's money by printing more money. They're adding more money to the system and they're making it so that whatever savings you have are a smaller percentage of whatever they were in the past. So over time, let's say the total amount of money in the system doubles, but the amount of money that you have stays the same, your purchasing power has dropped by 50%. I think this stems from most people wanting to do things that are guaranteed. They want to make sure that what they're doing is going to result in something. They don't want to put money into something, or they don't want to put the effort or time into something that won't pay them immediately. And that's one of the things that a job does. So a job will pay you immediately. You'll get a paycheck within 2 weeks. Most people don't want to start a business because they know that if you put something into a business, you may not get anything back for years. This avoidance of risk, of volatility, and embracing guaranteed returns is holding so many people back because if you hold on to US dollars, those dollars aren't going to grow over time. You're not going to see compounding working to your advantage. This is a compound interest calculator where I want to show you a specific scenario. So, for example, let's say you put $10,000 into a bank account today, and then every week going forward, you add $100 to that bank account. If your bank account is giving you a 0.1% interest rate, and you keep doing this for, let's say, 50 years, you're going to end up with $277,111. In that entire time, you would have earned $7,111 in interest. That would have been the growth on your portfolio. You can see here that your portfolio is growing, but it's only growing as a result of you putting more money into it. If you don't put money into it, it's not going to grow. The interest portion of your portfolio is barely increasing. Before I discovered Bitcoin, I would always suggest to people that they should buy index funds because index funds are going to give them a 10% return. Most people were more worried that the index funds are going to zero than they were about their dollars eventually going to zero because they didn't understand that the US dollar is guaranteed to lose value over time and 0.1% interest is nearly nothing. So let's say, for example, you did the exact same thing with the stock market. You put $10,000 in upfront, then you bought $100 worth every single week going forward, and the stock market gives you a 10% return. So over the next 50 years, you're going to see that the total value of your investment goes from $277,111 to $8,960,935.24. This is a result of doing something that's outside of your comfort zone. You would have put in the exact same amount of money, so you would have put in $270,000, but you would have earned way more interest This is the definition of your money working for you rather than you having to work for your money. So we can see here that the interest portion of this portfolio is way bigger, the dark blue, because the person who put their money into this portfolio with index funds took a bigger risk compared to somebody who kept their money in a bank account. This is a perfect example of compounding. Over time, you can see here that every period, the portfolio grows faster and faster because your interest is doing the work for you. The returns that you got on your portfolio are doing the work for you rather than you having to go to your job and sell your time for money and then putting that time in a savings account. You have a certain amount of money that you put into the portfolio, and at a certain point, you don't even have to put in $100 a week into your portfolio. It'll just do the majority of the work for you without you having to really make any decisions because you could just automate all of this. Most people are so concerned about embarrassing themselves, about looking like a failure, about being judged, that they don't want to do the things that are risky. People won't start a business because they think that they'll look like a failure in front of their family or friends. They'll look cringe or whatever the reason could be. They're not going to do all these things because they don't want their family to think of them as a fool. So they end up following the path of the majority of people. And the majority of people are probably miserable because I don't think the majority of people like their jobs. Imagine you thought like this from the day that you were born. If you went to school and you were learning the alphabet, and because you don't want to embarrass yourself, you don't practice and you just say, I'm going to stay away from this. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to look like a fool. Today, you wouldn't be able to read because reading is a result of compounding. It's a result of you first being able to understand the alphabet, then memorizing the alphabet, then putting together letters and being able to read words, and then being able to read sentences, and then being able to read an entire block of text. Everything in your life is a result of compounding, of growth, and compounding and growth requires risk. You have to risk something to get what you want. If something is being advertised as risk free with no downside, and the only thing that can happen is that you succeed, then you're not going to succeed. You're going to look like a loser in 10, 20, 30 years when you finally figure out that the thing that you thought was risk free is actually the most risky thing in the world. For example, if you have $66,000 of annual expenses today and your inflation rate is 5%, in 2026, you're going to be spending 69,000. In 2027, you're going to be spending about 73,000. By 2029, you'll be spending $80,000. By 2034, you're going to be spending $102,000 and so on. This number will keep rising and rising until 2048, you're spending 202,000. 2057, you're spending 300,000. 2062, you're spending 400,000. By 2067, you're spending 512,000 and so on. This number will keep rising because your expenses are going to keep rising as more and more money is printed and added to the economy. Keep in mind that governments have an incentive to keep destroying your purchasing power because it forces you to keep working and generating GDP and generating tax revenue so that they can keep extracting value from you. This chart is so important to understand because it shows you the purchasing power of the US dollar in the average city in the US. Over time, you can see here, this number keeps dropping. The amount of things that you can buy with your dollars keeps falling because more and more dollars are being added to the system, and they'll continue to be added to the system because that's just how fiat currencies work. If you're saving in dollars, you're screwing yourself over. Over time, you're going to see that your wealth will keep decreasing and decreasing, even though it seems like it's increasing. So let's say, for example, you add money to your bank account, you put $10,000 a month into your account, you get a 0.1% interest rate on that account. What you'll notice here is that in the early years, your fiat balance will increase, and you'll see that your fiat balance divided by your expenses is increasing. So over time, it goes from 0% to 173%, and it tops out at 1,385%. After 2046, though, it starts decreasing because your expenses are growing way too fast for your income to keep up. So you can see here in 2067, you're at 1,000%. So you went from 1,300%. So that means that you had 13.85 years of expenses saved up. By 2068, you're down to 9.8 years of expenses. And then by 2080, assuming that maybe you pass this money on to your kids or your grandkids or whatever, they only have 7 years of expenses saved. And if you keep scrolling and you keep scrolling, you're going to see that at one point, no matter how much money you save, your expenses are going to match your savings, even though you put $10,000 a month into this account. at some point, that $10,000 a month is nearly worthless. So you're going to see that by 2150, even though this portfolio of savings is worth $15.98 million, it's only 50% of your annual expenses, 54.39% of your expenses. This is why you need to take a risk. You need to get out of that 0.1% savings account. You need to go to something that'll give you a much higher return. I think that the goal here is to find an asset that surpasses the inflation rate and is growing at the fastest rate compared to all other assets. You always want to bet on the fastest horse in the race, not the slowest one. Here's a chart that shows you the returns of different savings vehicles. So you can see here, your bank account will give you a 0.1% interest rate. A 30-year US Treasury bond will give you 4.72%. The S&P 500 after inflation will probably give you about 8% per year. Real estate will give you 20%, but this is with 80% leverage. So you're taking a lot of risk. Private equity may give you like 15% or so. Venture capitalist firms are earning something like 25%. And Bitcoin is probably going to give you something like a 50% return over the next few years. I think that the best thing that you can do here is study how Bitcoin works, because once you figure out what Bitcoin is, you're going to realize that it's the least risky of all of these assets. Bitcoin is the only asset out of all of these that does not have counterparty risk. Every other asset has counterparty risk. You're relying on somebody else to make a decision that will end up with you making money. If they make the wrong decision, then you get screwed over. On the other hand, nobody can stop you from using your Bitcoin. Nobody can change Bitcoin's code to make it so that more units are created. None of that can happen, and you're in total control of your asset. I think over the next few decades, the people who realize this, the people who spend their time learning about how Bitcoin works, are not going to regret it. I think they're going to see that studying Bitcoin and owning it over the long term was the best decision that they could have made, because it'll end up with them having a lot more money a lot sooner compared to every other asset. The returns are just too good for anyone to really pass up. And now let's go back to the compound interest calculator to see what these numbers look like. You see here that if you keep saving $10,000 a month, by 2038, you'll have $1.57 million. But how many people even have the ability to save $10,000 a month? Not many. By 2040, you'd have $1.8 million. So it would take you 15 years to get to that point. But keep in mind that you're putting a lot more work into this. So your money isn't working for you, you're working for your money. Now let's go with a more realistic example where if somebody were to put $200 a month into Bitcoin and Bitcoin gives you a 35% growth rate, how long does it take to get to the same point? So by 2040, I believe the number was $1.8 million. In 2040, with Bitcoin, putting in $200 per month will get you $825,000. This is a really great chart that shows you what exactly the numbers would look like. The growth on that $10,000 per month savings is linear, but again, $10,000 a month is a lot of money, and most people can't do that. On the other hand, this chart shows you what your portfolio would look like if you were to put $200 into Bitcoin instead of $10,000 into your bank account. Over time, your portfolio is going to grow exponentially. And if we compare the two, after 20 years, you can see that your $200 per month into Bitcoin is going to be worth $3.733 million, and your portfolio would have grown by $3.685 million. You would have put $48,000 into your portfolio in that 20-year period. On the other hand, if you had put $10,000 per month into your bank account at a 0.1% interest rate, you would have put $2.4 million into your bank account, and your bank account would have only earned $25,000 in interest in that entire 20 years. So again, $200 per month into Bitcoin at a 35% growth rate. In 20 years, you would have put $48,000 into your portfolio, and your portfolio would be worth $3.7 million, while $10,000 per month into a 0.1% bank account would give you $2.425 million, and you would have only earned $25,000. This fear of taking risks is holding back so many people. So many people are never ever going to get wealthy because they're scared that they're going to go broke by making decisions like buying Bitcoin or buying stocks or buying real estate. The only thing that's guaranteed to lose value over time is your dollars in your bank account, and most people don't understand this. They don't see this because they think that dollars will have value forever. So make the right decision here. Don't save in dollars. You know that the dollar is guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. Save in something other than dollars that can't be printed at will. If you want to make better personal finance and investing decisions, I highly recommend that you check out the Retire with Bitcoin community here. You can scan that code, or you can check the link in the description. It'll be the first link that you see. I'll also be running a free webinar next week. You can check that out in this link here. You can scan it with your phone, or you can check the description for a link. In this webinar, I'm going to be teaching you the buy, borrow, die strategy and applying it to Bitcoin. I think the best thing that you can do here is take some risks. If you don't take risks now, at some point you're going to realize that you should have. And at that point, it'll be way too late and you won't be able to do anything about it. Start stacking Bitcoin because over time it'll get easier and easier to accumulate dollars as more dollars are printed and added to the economy. And over time, it's going to get more and more difficult to accumulate Bitcoin because Bitcoin has a finite supply. If you like this video and you want to learn more from me, watch this video here where I'll give you 21 tips about Bitcoin and personal finance that I think will help to improve your finances going forward.